Alright, welcome to the Steel Hand YouTube channel. Today we're going to be working on putting a Cajun Gunworks full trigger set with the reduced power spring, with the reduction reach kit, the short reset system, and the race hammer, and all sorts of other fun stuff. First thing we got to do is get it all cleaned up. Got to de-grease, de-oil, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get to cleaning. And once we finish getting all the grease and oil off of this thing, we'll come back and get to work. Alright, got it cleaned up. First thing we're going to do is take out some of the stuff from the bags, kind of set it there so we can look at what we got. At the same time, we're going to keep it all together so we know what's what and we're not getting stuff mixed up. Alright, what I like to do, now that everything is out, we're going to go look at it all. Now we have an image and a picture to work off of. So if we do get in a bind, stuff does get mixed up a little bit, we know exactly what came with which kit and what pieces go with what. It's always nice to have an extra image, extra information to go back to. So once you got it torn apart, you got no reference to look at. Alright, we're going to start on the slide first. And go ahead and push this pin out. You can use a little elevated block or whatever you have handy. As you can see, it's starting to come out the other side. Alright, now we got the pin out. It's inside of our little area right here. What you're going to do, pull this back up, which is going to let the firing pin stuff come back out. Real quick. There's your firing pin. All right there. Just rotate it like this a little bit. Push this down to allow it to come all the way out. Look at its orientation as it comes out. As you can see, this is how it is. We have reference for it later if we're putting the other one in. You can pull this up out of the top, looking at the spring and seeing the little clip mark. It's going to be facing the center of the gun when we put it back together. So it's that right there. And we're going to tip this with our finger on the back. Get that spring out. We're just going to continue doing a little cleaning. Just want to make sure we get all the pieces out and everything all at the same time. You can see we got our new extended firing pin right there. You can see it's minimal difference with just a hair longer. And the lightweight spring that goes with it. With the new spring for there. New roll pin. And that's going to be what's included in this part. So we're going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up real good. Since we got it apart, might as well do a little internal cleaning and we'll get back to it after that. Alright, we've gotten some of this stuff cleaned up. Went ahead and wiped it down. Just put a little oil on it. I'm going to take the spring, the lightweight spring in. Set that down. Take the old spring and set it to the side for now. Same with the old rest of the parts. Take the firing pin, put a little oil on it. Make sure it slides good for going in. Take the spring, slide it over. Alright, I'm going to go to put it back together. Alright, when you go to put it back together, you can take the, slide that in with a little C-shape facing the front. And you're going to take it, lay it down that way, so you can push it down. Push it down. You'll slide the firing pin in. Make sure it's straight. That'll allow the firing pin to go in. Remember, the grooves are going to be facing up. So now your firing pin is sitting in there. It's facing there. You can see the slide marks. The little C-shaped groove is facing that way. The indents on the firing pin, these right here, are facing up towards the top of the slide. Right here is where your roll pin's going to go back in. As you can see right here, you can look in the hole and see. You push the trigger in, the firing pin, you can see how the pin lines up. So we're going to have to align that to get it to go. So what we're going to do is take it, put this in there as a starter, slide it down through. So that'll allow us to start the pin. And then we'll pound it back through from the other side. Keep it in the line the entire time. Now originally we had to raise it up a little higher with the pin being in the bottom to get clearance for it. So now that we got that part out of the way, we can set it back down nice and lower, a little bit more secure, and finish tapping this in. Recess it a little. Good there. Good there. Alright, we're going to do a check. Which to do, we're going to have to push this down and then push on the back. Make sure the firing pin is moving. So we'll push this down. Push the firing pin. Making sure it's protruding out. I don't know if you can see it, the light, but it is actually coming through. So we're all good there. And that completes the work we have to do on the slide. Other than that, we should be good to go on that end of it. I'm going to put that to the side. All the rest of the parts go inside of the frame. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to get a Phillips head screwdriver, remove the grip screws, and take the grips off. They are not on that tight, so you don't have to put a lot of effort into getting them off. So go ahead and leave the screw right in there, just taking it off enough where I can get them out. It does come with new ones. But if these ones are still in good shape, and we'll keep them, we have a set of spares. Grip screws, that is. Set those to the side. As you can see, got the heavy spring in here. We'll be changing that. We'll go ahead and move the pins. Alright, you're going to drive out this pin right here, which is the one that goes right in the back. And there's a little tang on this that goes down in here. So before you get that pin, you have to pull this forward, just pries out very easily, and that will allow this to come out and your rear spring once you do that. Alright, and we're going to continue taking this down. Now we're going to come over here, take a little flathead screwdriver, a little spring right here. I'm going to pull that up and put it on top of this edge. Just like that. And that should allow you to push this through so you can pop this off. So take it, set it back up on our high performance block here. You very gently tap it. Doesn't take much, it pushes right through. As you can see, that lets this piece loose. And we'll be able to pull this out the other side. Alright. As you can see, we've taken it out. And we're pulling it out. I had to put a little pressure on this, pushing it back this way. To let that come out. And then this slid right out through the top. Pulled right out this way. Set those right there. And once you do that, as you can see, your sear cage is loose. All your springs, make sure you get a good idea. See, everything is sitting in there nicely. Set that right to the side. See how that sits in there. Facing that way. Get you a good look inside. See what's going on. Alright. I'm going to take a few more pins out. Should be enough light to see it. There's a little tiny pin right here, which is the one that goes through the side right there to lock that in place. So before we lose it, we take it, flip it upside down, take our little screwdriver, just gently slide that out. And it's tucked right up in there. See how it's now elevated right there? I'm just going to leave it right there. Keep our eye on it. It's going to allow us to put the back pin out, take this out. Alright, and as you can see, you have to knock this out from this side of the gun. You can't knock it out from the other side because it's actually a stepped pin, as you can see right there. So if you're trying to hammer it out from this side, it's not going to go. You're trying to force it all the way through. You got to knock it out from this side, which is the opposite side that has the little retainer. At that point, you should be able to move this entire section and remove that. Take that, set it right there. And that's how much we've taken apart so far. Now as you can see, there is a little tiny spring right there, which houses this little tiny piece right here. So you're gonna have to make sure you don't lose that, and you get it put back in when you do your assembly. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out the trigger pin, which should be the last piece to remove the cage and everything inside the frame. Alright, at this point in time, we've gotten all this stuff taken out. We'll go ahead and look at our parts. So everything we've removed so far. Frame is pretty much emptied out, except for the back little spring and clip there. We're going to give it a good cleaning, scrub it down, and then start doing some replacement. Alright, so I recommend if you're going to order their kit, just buy an extra one of these bars. To get this off with a hammer, I actually had to drill the pin down. As you can see, they have it staked. It's on both sides. So I had to drill it and able to get deep enough to get the stake out to actually make it work. So now this is basically worthless, whereas if I would have known ahead of time, I would have just bought one of these and then bam, it would have been good to go. I could have left this as a spare. Just a little note for you. Alright, now with the new race hammer, the claw, And put it in there the exact same way, using this as a reference. Got a trigger pins, or hammer pins. They say to put a little blue Loctite on these and let them set, because we're not going to stake them like they did originally, so they recommend some blue Loctite. Alright, now if you look at these two little pins, they actually are tapered a little bit, so if you set them in the right way, they'll go in a little bit by hand. If you set them in the wrong way, they'll be very tight, and well, you won't be able to get them in. Alright, we have the new trigger. We're going to install the longer set screw in the bottom hole. We have degreased it already. Just going to set it in here to get it started. We'll be taking this back out later, putting some Loctite on it. Just want to get them installed for the moment. Short one goes on top. Same thing, threaded hole. And get it set in there for a baseline. And that's the old style trigger versus the newer. You see the difference in the hook. A little bit less, a little bit more flow, versus this one's a lot sharper hook. We'll put that right there with its pieces. Alright. Putting that back in a minute. Everything looks good and clean. And go ahead. Got the trigger return spring right here. It's going to be going in, and also the floating trigger pin. Alright. Alright, so the trigger, the cage, the lightweight trigger spring, the floating pin. Now this spring will go flying very easily, which I found out. So I use this to basically take it, slide it down and hold it in place, and then just push the floating pin in with my finger at the same time, making sure to get the spring down behind the trigger and out into that little kicker. Give a little punch. Just make sure you're getting that set in there. It doesn't have to be too much. Just kind of want it even on each side. And there we go. Alright. Trigger works. We'll continue our assembly. Alright. Well, now we're going to tear this apart. As you can see, there's a spring inside of there. So I want to make sure we do not lose. We have the new billet adjustable. And this little roll pin. Well, threaded. And we have this piece right here, which is going to replace this black piece right there. So it'll be on this side of it. And this will sit down in here. Just like that. And the adjustable screw on top. A little elbow piece going down. Alright. Now it does not come with a spare spring for this. So to lose it, it's gonna be stuck for the day. Alright. We got that reassembled. And the new pieces installed. So got spring tension, so you can see how they sit. There is a little tiny spring right there. It sits in that little pocket right in that edge and right down in here. I don't even know if you can see it. It's very easy to lose. You got to get it in there, pop it up. A little flat screwdriver like that works very nice. I preset it from this side, got the spring on, put the little plate on, push the spring into place, slowly pushing the pin forwards, installed it into here so this piece wouldn't take off. Slid the spring over and slowly slid the pin across. Use this screwdriver to put this in and turn the spring a little bit to actually get it on. As you can see right now, we got tension. It slides in with your hand. No need for any tools other than your fingers and a little screwdriver to help it along. Alright. We're going to continue with reassembling in the next round. Alright, we are back. Alright, got the safety in. When you're putting this in, pull the spring to the side just like the other line. Once you get this 3/4 way through, stop about here, pushing this through. Set this side in, it goes facing this way, goes in, and then rotates down. At that point, you'll be able to push this the rest of the way in to lock it. When you get close to getting this all the way in, there's a little spring right here on that tab that we put in earlier. Push that tab right there back a little bit, and that'll allow this to drop in. Once you do that, your safety's back up and working. Make sure when you're putting your trigger in that before you put your cage in, you go back behind here and hook this onto your this little metal bar right there. If not, UBSOL. That little piece right there, that silver little hook, make sure that goes over this base of this cage. It was this hook right here. So make sure you got that underneath there. If you don't, it'll still go together, but you won't have any trigger afterwards. You only have just a tiny bit of flex. So other than that, basically all back together. We have the lightweight spring put on here. I'm going to slide that up to a trigger bar on the bottom. A little coupler on it facing down. And once we get this pushed, just going to use the table to help us. Push that down, pull this little metal spring up, slide it in, and there you go. Your bar's all back in, except for your pin here. Once you got that in, you start your pin, goes in by hand. Just push down, line it up. There you go. And basically, trigger works there. And let's try the double action. Alright. Still got to adjust the take up and creep and reset on the front setup. We'll still have to adjust the safety setup, but for now we're just trying to get it put together, and we'll go back through, test all our settings. Once we know they're verified good, then we will Loctite them in place before we use this. Other than that, we'll go back ahead, put our grips back on, put our upper back on, system check it all, make sure it's good, and that's it. Hopefully that helped you a little bit. We learned a little bit together. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know.